Evan Scott for Seymour Duncan. I'm here with one of our favorite artists, Janet Robin, who is making her way up the coast and decided to stop in today and visit us and play a little music for us. And welcome, Janet. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I love coming here.
Absolutely. So before we get into your exploding solo career right now, I want to go into some of your background. And I know you're associated with some rather legendary guitar players, the first of which is Randy Rhoads. Tell us about your relationship with the awesome, legendary Randy Rhoads.
Well, I started studying electric guitar with him when I was 9, and I'm only 10 now.
Oh, so you've been playing about 6 months.
Yeah, quite a few years ago. And he happened to teach at his mom's music school called Musonia, which was around the corner from where I grew up with my parents. And at the time, you know, he wasn't as legendary. He was in Quiet Riot, which was a big LA band, but of course he got way more well-known when he got the Ozzy gig. But I studied with him for about 5 or 6 years, from age 9 until 15, till he got the gig with Ozzy. And I believe I was the only female student and also the youngest. And I'm still in touch with the family, and the music school is still there. His brother now runs it.
That's right, I've heard that.
Yeah.
And then from there, speaking of female guitar players, I believe you were one of the founders of Precious Metal, the all-female seminal Hollywood metal band
Hollywood
of the day.
Sunset Strip band, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was one of the founding members. Got in that band in high school, and we quickly got signed, and we got pretty big in the LA area, and we started touring, and we did the whole thing throughout the 80s until grunge came along and the music business changed.
Right.
But yeah, I cut my music business teeth, I think, in that band. It was fun.
And then you were associated with another legendary guitar player after that, Lindsey Buckingham.
Completely different music, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my musical background is really quite varied. Yeah, I auditioned for his first solo band he was putting together, Lindsey. It was quite a few years after he had left Fleetwood Mac, and he really wanted to do something special this time. He wanted to create a guitar army. So he hired 2 male guitar players and 2 female guitar players because he wanted the female voice also.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a total of 5 guitar players and 2 percussion players, a drummer, keyboard, and bass. It was a 10-piece orchestra, basically, and we recreated pretty much, you know, exactly what was on that particular record, because he's quite a perfectionist.
Wow, so that must have been a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I went from cutting my music business teeth in Precious Metal and the Sunset Strip to, like, you know, obsessive compulsive, in a good way, perfectionism and really high-level professionalism.
Yeah, it must be very rewarding though when you're on playing at that degree of complexity and exactitude.
Totally, and you know, just being on stage with him playing songs like The Chain, Go Your Own Way, you know, these legendary songs. And we had some great tours. We did some on our own, but we also had an awesome tour opening for Tina Turner. And I got to see her play every night, which was like mind-blowing. So yeah, and he really he taught me a lot about songwriting, about putting a show together, how to be a performer. I mean, at the time I didn't know that I was going to become a solo performer, but I saw how he functioned and how he worked. And you know, you really do have to put a show together from the beginning to the middle to the end, and all of the things that are involved in that, the set list, the, you know, just everything, producing the music, you know, from the recording to arranging live. And it was like basically I was in college in Precious Metal, and then I went to like big time grad school, right. You know, with Lindsey.
Well, if he was the general in the guitar army, what was your rank?
Ooh, I don't know. What's below that? Well, I think we were all captains,
okay.
You know, below him. But I mean, I have to say, you know, we had a very good rapport, and I think I'm a natural performer. I was kind of like that in Precious Metal. I stood out a little bit, I think, from all my years of being with Randy and being a very young girl at like age 11, going to a couple of rock clubs seeing Randy play, you know, at such a young age. I was just like, wow, this is so great. And so it came somewhat naturally to me to be a performer on stage. I didn't steal his spotlight or anything, but he did happen to give me, he gave me a guitar solo during one of his songs. And, you know, he doesn't need to give anybody guitar solos, but he gave me one and a couple of the other guys short solos. And then he featured me in some, you know, moves on stage. We would do this like battle of guitars, you know, and fall down on the ground and roll around, and it was pretty cool. And
That's great.
And we did a little writing together, and you know, after rehearsals he asked me to stay or meet him on a Saturday, and you know, hey Janet, are you available this Saturday to come do some writing?
And the answer to that is...
let me check my calendar. Yeah, so it was great.
And then you you were in Air Supply too, right?
Yeah, well after that, actually, after Lindsey's stint, it was when I started doing my own solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was starting to turn down auditions like Alanis Morissette and stuff. You know, at the time she wasn't big yet, but I just was saying no to hired gun gigs and started my own thing. And then I eventually was able to work in the solo stuff and still do some hired gigs. And I got a gig with Meredith Brooks.
That's right.
And that was pretty cool. I worked with her for a few years, and we went on the road with Melissa Etheridge, and we did radio tours and a bunch of things. Another great guitar player. She's a great guitar player, and she's a woman, and not that that really makes a difference, but she also featured me in some solos and also let me open for her a few times, which was really great.
Mm-hmm.
An unusual thing when you're hired to be in the band and then yet your
act.
boss lets you open. Yeah,
That's great.
So that was cool, and I went on from there. I worked a little bit with Michelle Schacht,
Mm-hmm.
folk music, completely on the other spectrum, you know, of styles. And then after that, I got the gig a few years later with Air Supply, and that was really unusual too. The first female that they ever had in that band, and it was great. I had to leave the gig only because my
You were all out of love?
Yeah, and I was lost in love.
Lost in love.
But you know, all their songs have the great word love in it. No, it was a great gig, and we were playing, you know, big places, and they're huge in Mexico and huge all over the world, actually. But my solo career started moving forward more.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of huge all over the world, you seem to find yourself in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, all over North America.
Yeah.
Every time I check up on you, you're in a different time zone.
That's true. I'm tired.
And somehow you're really big in the Czech Republic right now.
Yeah, so strange. Well, I don't know about really big, but I guess it's a small country, so you can be big out there at any level. I got introduced to the Czech Republic music scene by a fantastic band called November 2nd, husband and wife team, and they brought me over there. We did some festivals together, and it just took off from there. The audiences out there really enjoyed my music, my style. It didn't come down to whether I was a girl or how old I was or any of that kind of thing. It was just like, if they like your music, they like your music. And I got connected to several different agencies out there, and they started bringing me out there, and that led to, you know, I finished my record, and that led to being picked up by a label in Germany. And then, you know, once you're in Europe, you start, you know, meeting a lot of people, and you start ending up going to a lot of different countries once you're, you know, introduced to that area.
So you mentioned your record. I know you've got several solo releases out, but you just came out with one, I believe, is about a month ago.
Yeah, it was out, you know, over a year ago in Europe, and it's the record I did with John Carter Cash,
Who is the son of
Johnny Cash and June Carter, and I did it actually a couple years ago, and it got picked up by a label in Germany, but we waited to release it out here because we had been offered some U.S. distribution deals that we ended up not taking, and just the whole process of going through looking the contracts, and we were just waiting to release it and decide whether we're going to do it on our own or go with a company. So in between all of that, I was touring, and I just never ended up officially releasing it out here. It'd only been out in Europe. And yes, John Carter Cash produced it, and it was completely fan-funded. I raised $20,000 from all my fans to do the record. And so yeah, finally came out May 1st on iTunes, Amazon, all the digital sites. And I'm touring on that now, doing some radio promo, and that'll probably last through the summer. And then it's time to put out another record.
Awesome. So if people want to know where they can see Janet Robin, where do you go on the internet?
The best place would be my website, which is janetrobin.com. That's JANETROBIN.com. It's got everything on there. It's got my latest CD and previous releases. It's got all my tour dates. It's got videos, and you can see me solo, totally solo acoustic, or with a band, and you can hear the differences. And it's interestingly enough, in Europe, I have a band in each country. So it's pretty cool. This last tour, I had a Polish band, I had a Czech band, and I had a French band.
Wow.
And then I have my band here in the U.S. And then I'm solo, if needed. So
that's like the awesome musician's fantasy of the sailor's life of a woman in every port.
Yeah, right.
Band in every country.
Right. And great musicians. I mean, we're great out here in the U.S., but I must say they're really good musicians out there.
Yeah.
Very good, yeah.
This guitar that you're holding, it's a Rick Turner guitar.
It is.
He's connected to Lindsey Buckingham as well.
I met him through Lindsey.
And it's got a Seymour Duncan Stag Mag pickup. Yeah.
Yep.
That gives you your cool electric sounds.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
And then under the saddle, you've got a Guitar Timberline piezo pickup.
Yeah, and then Together,
Yeah.
which is my favorite.
This is Evan Scott. I'm here with Janet Robin. See you next time.